Okay, welcome everyone to this third session of Do's and Don'ts. So for this series of workshops of Do's and Don'ts together with the NCCs and the series. So this series of workshops is organized in collaboration with NCC Netherlands, more particularly with Andrea. So many thanks to Andrea for co-organizing this with us. Again, for a reminder, if you are a new participant to this series of workshops, the idea is to hear from recommendations, lessons learned, feedbacks, what a series on NCCs would advise the others to try or not to try to develop in their NCCs and series on specific topics. Today, the specific topic is interaction with public administration or equivalent, so with public authorities, with NGOs, with European organizations, and how it went for the series of entities to interact with this kind of entities, and what works well when you interact with such entities or not. Before starting, first information is that the workshop is recorded. We will keep only the presentations part at the end, so to share it with you and for archive purposes. And second is before we start actively the workshop, I'm launching right now a poll. So you should be seeing on your Zoom interface, a poll for you to provide your suggestions for the next topics, or let us know if you would be a volunteer to present on these next topics. So you will see the first question is just to know from 4 topics, what would be for you the priority ones that we should interact about. So we have a topic of how to engage with industry, a topic about collaboration and mechanisms in your NCC, and more particularly with the Central Europe group of NCC, so that would maybe be more for the NCCs. We have also the topic of how to prepare for the future interaction with Fortissimo project. That might be also maybe more for the NCCs, but also how to manage proof of concept in your NCC, if you already have experience with that also. So you will have time during the workshop to give your inputs. And the others are free questions, free text, to let us know if you have specific topics that you would like to hear or interact or share, and if you are a volunteer to share on some topics. And of course, any other comments or feedbacks. So please answer to this poll by the end of the workshop, because it will be closed at the end of the hour. I will get back to this at the very end of the workshop. But now, let's proceed with our topic of today, which is interaction with public administration or equivalent. We will be very glad to hear from 3 different entities today. We will have first NCC Slovenia, and then we'll hear from EoCoE CoE, and then with CHEESE CoE. We have 1 hour, so we have maximum 20 minutes per speaker per NCC or series. So they have a few slides, and of course, feel free to write in the chat your questions, comments, so that we could interact with each speaker at the end of their specific presentation. And also, it's also possible during the whole workshop to interact also via the chat. And now, let me share the floor first with NCC Slovenia, so with Ariela, who will present you their experience with public entities.
Thank you very much. So I'll just share my screen. Let me know if you can see it.
Yes, full screen, perfect.
Great. Okay. So today I'll tell you a little bit about hackathon as a tool for collaboration in HPC promotion and use. So in NCC Slovenia, especially Arnau, who is the coordinator of the project, and the national coordinator, we have been very dedicated to the promotion of HPC use in the past few years, especially in the tasks within the EuroCC project. Alongside this, our communications team has also been very active in the world of open science, specifically within the framework of the European Open Science Cloud and data repositories for fair data storage. And this allowed us to notice the inherent link between the two topics or areas. So in order to securely and quickly process open data, we need capable supercomputers. And more than that, to better the efficiency of supercomputers, we need more research producing fair data within the framework of open science, so that the conclusions can then be more easily and fairly used in other research, eventually leading to a global collaboration effort in building a better future. Additionally, the strive to ensure sustainability of the infrastructure and services is similarly aimed towards building a better tomorrow. And none of this is really possible without collaboration. But all collaboration usually starts on a smaller scale, and we wanted to take that into account when designing an activity or a project, if you will, which would help more clearly link the two areas together in light of sustainability. We also wanted our promotional activity to alert the public, the relevant government bodies, the research community, and then especially students who might one day become an integral part of that research community. And we wanted to alert them that it is crucial to advance and finance the fields of open science and supercomputing. Now, this is why we organized our hackathon. It was co-organized also by the Slovenian Society of Open Science and NCC Slovenia, which played a large role in the organization. It was aimed specifically at students of Slovenian universities, public and private, and they came together twice for 2 rounds. For the first time in a shorter introductory event, and then in the second round for a 24-hour hackathon event, where they developed their ideas based on 4 challenges we designed for them. And we kept in mind the relevance of the challenges and their national importance, as well as their suitability for large data sets and especially open data availability. The challenges were also aimed to cover, content-wise, as many UNESCO Sustainable Development Goals as possible, while keeping in mind the quality application of these goals in their hackathon solutions. The students were encouraged to take part in our Intro to Supercomputing workshop, which we offer regularly in both Slovenian and English as part of our National Competence Center for Supercomputing. And the data from the questionnaire that the students filled out after the hackathon showed that they were very satisfied with the workshop and the knowledge they gained from it, as well as that they were able to use that knowledge later on when applying it to their solutions during the hackathon. In the second round, the students were able to use the EuroHPC Vega supercomputer resources to process their data. In that questionnaire after the hackathon, the students also said that they were satisfied with the level of support they received for the use of HPC resources, both in person at the event and via mail from our national support team. We also offered technical support for the use of supercomputers during the event, with one mentor present at the event in person, and others taking care that everything runs smoothly in the background. This was also a great promotional opportunity for EuroHPC Vega. Some students also mentioned that they would want a certificate that they ran jobs on the EuroHPC Vega supercomputer. But some more details about the collaborative aspect of the event, which to us personally feels like the most important part of it. The event was also organized by 2 ministries, Ministry for Public Administration and Ministry for Digital Transformation, which together run the Slovenian Open Data Portal, or the OPSI portal. The Slovenian Informatics Society also contributed a great deal to the organization. We also had the honorary patronage of the Slovenian National Commission for UNESCO. So that was our European insert in that sense. And among our partners were industry-related companies like Sandoz, as well as insurance company Mudra, and many academic and research institutions also participating in one way or another. Among them was the InnoRenew Center of Excellence, 6 different universities, the Social Science Data Archives, Clarin.si, 3 institutes, among them the Institute for Information Sciences in Maribor, where EuroHPC Vega is located. The event was a great success, as we really managed to catch the ears of several relevant officials and especially the student community. And we managed to show that a meaningful connection of open science and supercomputing is not only possible, but necessary in order to face modern day challenges in an efficient manner. But if we move to the do's and don'ts, I would say we had some very clear key takeaways from our first time organizing such an event. First, we established connections with the industry, the public administration, and academia, which will play a key role for any future collaborations for HPC, not only in the sense of the hackathon as an event, but in the sense of our national activities as a whole. The event was also the perfect opportunity to connect all 3 key audiences. So the industry, public administration, and academia. Additionally, in the context of the informatics conference, part of which was the 24-hour second round of the hackathon, we managed to catch the attention and establish contact with companies, academics, and public administration officials, which will contribute to the organization of our next hackathon and other activities in the HPC services that we offer. However, seeing as it was our first time organizing such an event, and especially because we were under a severe time constraint, we only had 5 months to actually organize the event from 0 to 100. This meant that we didn't manage to clearly delineate our agreements with the sponsors or include the partners in the event as thoroughly as we wanted to. And we also sadly did not have enough time to really focus on promoting the event in media, which is one of our main goals for next year, to also make the public pay more attention to the world of supercomputing and open science. So what we mostly learned from this event was that it is something that you have to start organizing 1 year earlier, and that it is an event which requires a lot of financial and human resources in order to really make the impact that we wish to leave. But I would say that all in all, we were very satisfied with how it all turned out, and I think all partners and co-organizers were also very happy to see that it was a big success. So I think that's it from my side.
Cool, great, Ariela, great one time. Now that we heard this great first example from NCCs, let's see how it goes for the COEs. And let's continue with EoCoE and with Julien Thélot from EoCoE, who will share with us some experience of them. Full screen, perfect.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yeah. All right. Hello. My name is Julien. I'm the project manager for the EoCoE 3 project, which is now in its 3rd phase. And the events I'll be discussing today are things that happened in 2020 and 2021. We're in the second phase of the project. The general framework of this quick talk is going to see what risk you can take and what risk you better avoid when interacting with the European Commission as a whole. I must say that having worked previously on projects that were facing real issues, what I'll be discussing today is a very minor problem. Nothing earth-shattering. It didn't endanger the whole project, but hopefully we'll see if we can find a few lessons regarding EU discussions. All right, so to give you an idea of the general context of the event I'm discussing. The Energy Center of Excellence had just collaborated with the European Energy Research Alliance on launching a joint program on digitalization for energy. It was a pretty big deal for us at our project scope. It was a collaboration scientific topic with an already well-established institution. And we wanted to find a way to showcase what we had been doing. So we decided to target a policy-focused event, in this case, was the European Sustainable Energy Week, which is a yearly event that takes place in Brussels. We got together with other COEs and started discussing the possibility of organizing a general session on the role of digitalization and simulations applied to energy domain and what it could mean in terms of EU policy. To tell you the truth, for us, it was an event pretty distinct from what is usually our core business. We usually focus on more scientific things. This was a policy-making conference. We wanted to make sure that we could maximize whatever impact we thought we could bring for it. So we had a bit of brainstorming and decided that the best solution for us would be to get the backing and the involvement of our European DGs. So the DGs are the unit at the European level who were pretty much supervising the way our projects were going. And now comes the problem. The theory was simple. We would follow protocol, which means pretty much starting to email our project officers, the people directly responsible for the supervision of our projects. And hopefully they would get in the loop and we could all start working together on this event. Yeah, that's something we started doing at the end of 2020, early 2021, and we failed to get any traction at the European level. No matter which DG we tried to get in touch with, no matter if we were moving from individual addresses to more, from personal addresses to general addresses, we wouldn't get any answer from anyone. After a few months of this, I would say back and forth, but just actually forth, no back from them, we had to decide whether we would just put these projects on the shelf. So, okay, we do this another year, or go over a project officer's head and try to reach the heads of unit. To give those of you who are not familiar with the inner workings of the European Commission, reaching out directly to head of unit is a pretty big breach of protocol. You're not supposed to go straight to them. You're supposed to always work through project officers. But because the event was, well, being actually put into jeopardy, we decided to go over project officer's head and reach out to the head of unit. It worked. The head of unit intervened in, let's say, very non-diplomatic terms. He pretty much yelled via email at his subordinates, and everything got in order. The project officer started moving. We started to be able to involve the DGs, and we got the event we were looking for. We had a policy session at the European Sustainable Energy Week. The interesting part is what came afterwards. We got a very, very angry email from an officer blaming us for this breach of protocol and reminding us that we always had to go through them, never above their heads. And he was extremely pissed off about the whole situation. We had to go through the whole communication process and showcase that we had taken the time and given them more than enough time to come back to us, and that we only reached out to the head of unit at the very last resort. And if things could have gone differently, of course, you would have been more than happy to have the project officer in the fold earlier than it was. In the end, everyone calmed down and the situation was resolved. It can seem pretty trivial, but a center of excellence are under a pretty big microscope at the EU level. We are pretty tightly evaluated. So pissing off your project officer is a very big deal. You do not want to have an angry project officer evaluating your project. It means that every time you're running late, and believe me, on a 3 or 4 year project, you will have moments when you will be running late. You will get blamed for it. He or she will be giving accrued attention to everything you do in the project. And when you get to your project final review, everything that has not got according to their wishes could be blamed on you. So this is a situation you absolutely want to avoid, and resolving tempers and making sure that everyone goes back to working smoothly together is a pretty important point. From this, as I said, pretty minor experience, what were the lessons we learned? Well, a few do's. What we really learned was that you need to maintain your project officer and the commission at the correct length. When you reach out to them, you want to make sure that you engage the commission on their field and with specific topics. You don't reach out to the commission with a general question. Reach out to them because you want their help or their advice on something extremely specific. And that's because you want to maintain them both in the loop, but at arm's length. You don't want your project to be put under a microscope. You want them to be informed, but not focusing on you. You need to follow protocol. This is what was blamed on it, that was levied against us. And you need to be able to prove that you reached out to the correct person at the correct time, and that you moved on to other interlocutors when the first ones didn't respond. You need to be patient. That's a given. You're talking to massive structures. You cannot expect like the full topics to be addressed in a week's length. That means that you need your communications to start as early as possible. Everything is to be discussed really in advance. Like we started 9 or 10 months in advance. And yeah, operating under a year to 6 month advance is absolutely mandatory. You need to be able to retrace your entire emails. This is what pretty much saved us during this unpleasant interaction with the project officer. We were able to showcase that everything had been done properly. So he would just calm down. We didn't do anything wrong, and we had the exchanges to prove it. I know that the European Commission's platform has an email system, an internal exchange system. It's pretty bothersome. It's not as smooth as a normal regular email, but it tracks everything. So if you start having important conversation with the Commission, use their inner systems because it keeps track of everything. Which brings me to the things you should not do. Don't wait before you involve your project officers. As soon as you think you will be benefiting from their participation, make sure that they're in the loop. And of course, don't rush in calling the bosses. They don't like it. What do I mean when I say don't dispense of EU etiquette? If you've already interacted with the Commission, I'm pretty sure you've noticed that every email starts with thanks and weirdly over-polite tone. This is EU etiquette. The mails you're expected to send and receive are extremely polite all the time, even when people are very angry. The email we got from our officer was not polite, and answering him in a, once again, EU normative, extremely polite tone was a way to diffuse the situation and make him realize that he was the one who was overstepping the usual norms of EU discussions. I would add that you have to remember that every discussion with the European Commission is transactional. You're not speaking from an egalitarian position. They are the money and they know it. And you're there to demonstrate that you're not wasting their time and their money. That means quite simply, you do not have the right to get mad in your email. You do not get angry at your project officers. You do not yell at them, and you make sure that everything you write is polite to an excess. It doesn't mean that you can't do anything. I would say that you can bend the rules. Going over someone's head, if you've taken the necessary step to protect yourself, is something you can do if you think what you want to do is going to be put to risk. Just make sure that you can justify doing this rule bending, and know that there will be blowback. You will get angry emails, you will get angry phone calls. You need to get ready for them, to decide who will answer them. Do you get your project manager, your project coordinator? Do you give this to a specific person who's more, in our case, policy focused than the other ones? Just get ready and prepared for the blowback. That's it on my side. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you. Thank you very much for this interesting sharing of experience. Now let's go to our next series, which will be CHEESE. And we have Arnau, Folch, and Tomasino Esposti-Ongaro, who will share some experience from CHEESE series with public administration.
Okay, thanks. Good afternoon, everyone. On a share screen, just let me know if you can see the full screen mode.
Yes, full screen, perfect.
Okay, good afternoon. Well, as you know, CHEESE is the Center of Excellence that deals with geophysics and geohazard. And today, together with Tomasino, we're going to show you some examples of how do we interact with the public sector in general, public administrators and other actors and stakeholders of the public sector. No? But before that, just to recap, because CHEESE is to some extent a particular CoE in the sense that it approaches it has different approaches to exascale, because we have cases of capability computing. It means that we have problems that are really hero runs that reach exascale at the code level. So that's to solve problems that we have in our domain, which so far couldn't be solved because we didn't have the right machines. Then we have other examples of what we call capacity computing. That's cases in which we reach exascale not by running just one single very, very large problem, but actually through a workflow. So that's an exascale workflow in which we run simultaneously a large ensemble of runs for many different purposes, like, for example, data inversion, model data simulation, quantification of uncertainty, etc. And then we have a third case in which is the one that we will focus today, which is urgent computing, in which we use the EuroHPC systems in order to reduce the time to solution. And this is something that affects emergency management. So it is here when we are implementing and developing services in collaboration with public bodies for these emergency management situations. In the case of CHEESE, this mostly concerns volcanic eruptions, earthquakes, tsunamis, and glacier hazards. But of course, the concept of urgent computing can be extended to other hazards beyond geophysics. So how we do that? Well, in CHEESE, we have what we call the IUB, that's the Industry and User Board. And this is let's say, a panel of stakeholders that follow our developments and also have a very important role in helping us designing and running actually what we call trial exercises and also the enabling of services. We already had this IUB in the first phase of CHEESE, and we started with a few number of them, and then the number of IUB members was growing and growing over the project. And when we ended the first phase of CHEESE, we ended with, if I remember well, something like 44 or 45 IUBs. That was quite a big and turned out to be a quite unmanageable number. So we decided in the second phase of CHEESE to reduce a little bit and just retain a selected number of IUBs. No, you have here the list. We have 23 right now. Some of them are full members. Full members means that they even have to sign an NDA with us. And others are more observers. The ones that you see in red are the ones that are really public administration. So just to give you some examples, we have, for example, on board of these IUBs, the Italian Civil Protection. We have the IGN, which is the Geographic National Institute in Spain. This is also the institution in charge by law of all the geophysical monitoring and alert issuing of alerts in Spain. We have the National Seismic Service of Mexico, the Buenos Aires Volcanic Ash Advisory Center, which is the center that is also in charge of issuing volcanic ash advisories to civil aviation in all the South American region. We have also the center of the Plinius Center in Italy, which provides services to the emergency response, the European Emergency Response Coordination Center. We have the Icelandic Civil Protection, and then we have GEM, which is the Global Earthquake Modeling Foundation. No? So with all these IOBs, and in particular with the ones you see in red, also with others, the others are a mix of, let's say, academic institutions or organizations, some private companies, and other types of IOBs. No? The IOBs are not only from Europe. As you can see in the map, we have IOBs from all around the world, in Mexico and Argentina, in the States, in Australia, and in other places. No? But the important point here is that we engage them from the very beginning to design these trial exercises and the different types of services. Of course, in CHEESE2, sorry, we are starting now the definition of the trials, that this is something that we plan to do in the next 2 years. But what I will show you today is some of examples and some success stories that we had in CHEESE1, because the one in CHEESE2 are expected to be online with this. No? So these are some examples of exercises that's for co-designing the services that we enable during CHEESE1. And you have here some examples. For example, on the top left, you have an example of a live demonstrator that we did for urgent computing in the case of earthquakes. And that was an application to replicate an earthquake that occurred in Turkey and affected also the Samos Island in Greece. And in this case, we had through this portal a real-time simulation launched by an alert. No? Essentially, there is a kind of a screening, and every time that there is an earthquake occurring that meets certain properties, let's say it has a magnitude above a certain threshold, it affects an area of interest, blah, 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 then it automatically triggers the simulation and does all the post-process and present the maps in the form that the final user wants. No? Another example at the bottom left is also live demonstrators that we did with the Volcanic Ash Advisory Center. These are live exercises that are done in a routine basis in the civil aviation sector, so that affects the civil aviation stakeholders, that's the area control centers, aeronautic service providers, etc. And we participated in one of these exercises that are done yearly, and that in this case was by the simulation of dispersal of volcanic ash in the atmosphere, which has a high impact on civil aviation. We did another example, for example, with Plinius and Aristotle on the probabilistic volcanic hazard assessment in the area of Naples. So what would happen if tomorrow there is an eruption of these characteristics, which would be the effect on the roads, railways, infrastructures, population, etc. So that's mixing and blending the results of a simulation with all the exposure and assets that we have on a certain territory. You know? And then we also did, among others, live demonstration of tsunami early warning systems. In this case, we also have simulations automatically triggered every time there is an earthquake that can potentially, submarine earthquake that can potentially trigger an earthquake. And the goal here is to do the simulation with a very strict time constraints, so that you can give the alert before the wave reaches the coast and produces damage. I will show you now some real cases, because before I have shown some results on exercises, which is something that you do in peacetime to practice what would happen is. But we also had during CHEESE1 the occasion to put this in practice on real case. One example of a real service occurred during the eruption in La Palma in the Canary Islands, that, as you may remember, lasted for nearly 3 months from September to December 2021. And that eruption was had a quite high impact on the territory, because it destroyed over 3,000 buildings because of the lava flows. We had to evacuate almost 10,000 people. So there was a confining zone, a red zone, and all the people living there had to be evacuated and moved to other places in the island or outside the island, etc. And even if it was mostly a lava-producing eruption, it also had some phases of explosive volcanism, which produces different volcanic ash, and had some punctuated disruptions of the La Palma airport, which implied cleaning the runway, rerouting, closing the airport, rerouting flights, etc. No? At the national level, when we had the eruption, that was managed by an emergency committee. That was the name of this committee is PEVOLCA, and this committee is participated by, of course, the national government, also the local government, the army, the police, the Spanish civil protection, and then there is also a scientific committee that supports the decisions. And here in CHEESE, what we did was provide a kind of service, a daily operational forecast that we deliver every morning to the provolca. It was a forecast for the next 2 days, the next 48 hours, in terms of which would be the impacts of the ongoing eruption on navigation, on the airport, on the air flights, and also on the volcanic fallout. And we also did simulations for the air quality. So we were considering different scenarios for the air quality. And based on the forecast, this committee that met every day at 7 a.m. Took decisions about if the people had to be confined or they have to, even beyond the red zone, because we had also some episodes in which the air quality was quite low for some threatening cases. No? So here we were running simulations with one particular code that is called Folch 3D on Mare Nostrum 4 on 2 computational domains, one that covered the Canarian archipelago and then a larger one which was at a lower resolution, but that was more regional and included also the Iberian Peninsula. And that was a quite successful for us example of a service, a real case service, and showed also the benefits of urgent computing because we were able to inform daily the authorities about the expected scenarios, and based on that, this committee that was, here you have a picture of the committee that met on the island every morning, and they took decisions, among other things, and among other bunches of data that were coming up at the time, they took decisions on how to manage the crisis. Another real case that we had in CHEESE 1 is the tsunami, urgent computing tsunami service that is implemented in Aristotle. And this is to give service to the EU Emergency Response Coordination Center that, to make it short, is a kind of entity that joins the different civil protections of Europe. No? And here is a service for tsunami hazard assessment that is automatically run also every time there is a submarine earthquake that can potentially trigger a tsunami. And here you have an example of one particular case and the types of simulations that we deliver through Aristotle to the ERCC. Another example of a service case is not what happens during an emergency, but what you do to plan what will happen during an emergency. This is what we call the long term, and these are all the hazard assessment that we do before an emergency happens to be better prepared. No? And this is just an example for long-term tsunami hazard assessment. It is a study that we also did for IGN, which, as I said before, is the national entity in Spain in task of geophysical monitoring and issuing of alerts. And that was a kind of a study of the Andalusian coast in the south of Spain that also included different scenarios for tsunamis, and I think that this is also relevant, some kind of estimation of economic losses depending on the type of tsunami that we may expect. No? So here that involves many hundreds of simulations on this domain that you see here, the big one, and then with a kind of nested. Each of these local nests increase the resolution of the model and goes down to the metric scale. So that you can get very nice simulations of inundations map. For example, this is for Cadiz, like the one that you see here at the bottom. No? And then on top of that, once you have that, if you overpose here the different exposure and the values of the vulnerability and values of the territory, you might get some kind of dollar sign based or risk based analysis. No? Like the ones, for example, here, where they mapped the different existing faults in this region that can potentially generate a tsunami triggering earthquake. And for one of these 14 very well-known faults, there is this economic impact assessment in which you might see what we expect, including error bars, for each of these faults in terms of thousands of millions of euros of cost. No? So that's the kind of thing that we deliver to them, and this helps to let's say, to better organize aspects like territorial planning, etc. No? So just to conclude, some couple of bullet points, what you shouldn't do or done is that, at least to our experience, do not expect that the end users, in this case the public administration, will adopt the products or whatever you have in your CoE as they are now. No. Instead, it is super crucial that you involve them from the very beginning in a co-design phase, which is fundamental to cover their needs. Another important aspect that has already been mentioned in the first talk is that there are regulations, there are rules, there are protocols in place, and this is very important, particularly in emergencies, in emergency situations. So not everyone can do what they want or what you want at any time. So you have to follow strictly, particularly during non-stream computing services, all this chain of decisions, roles, and protocol. And you have, because it has also legal implications, so you have to strictly adapt to this. And another important aspect, in particular during urgent computing services and in emergency situations, is that you have to clarify well in advance who does what. And that also includes many aspects, but in particular, the access to the computational resources. And that's it. Thanks for your attention.
Thank you very much, Arnau, for this for sharing this experience. And we are at the end of our hour. So last chance, if you have some questions, you can write them in the chat so that Tomasino and Arnau maybe can quickly answer. Also, last chance to participate to the poll, which is still ongoing for a few minutes. I will let the Zoom open just a couple of minutes after wrapping up, so that if you didn't have time, you have time now to contribute, please. It will take you literally 30 seconds. And otherwise, so thank you very much. A warm thank you to our speakers, so to Ariela, to Julien, to Tomasino, to Arnau, for presenting today for NCC Slovenia, EoCoE theory and CHEESE theory. It was great to hear your various experiences with public administration. What are the common points? What are different? So thank you very much for this, for sharing your lessons learned and your recommendations for the future for everyone. Thank you very much again to Andrea for co-organizing this with us. And we wish you a very nice rest of the day, and we'll have another workshop of this series when we will have defined the next priority topic. So thanks to everyone, and have a good rest of the day.